Hey, hi to everybody who is here. I am actually going live on Facebook as well. It says preparing. I don't know if we are live. Yes, we are live on Facebook. So welcome to our virtual book signing of Fearful to Fabulous, which is looking backwards on here. Fearful to Fabulous, Unlock Your Power, Move On and Thrive After Midlife Divorce. People are probably going to be popping on as we go or popping off, whatever. If you're on Facebook and you send me a message, I'll have to look at it later because I can't do Zoom and Facebook at the same time. It's a little confusing for me. But anyway, so here we are. I decided that I'd like to share it on my page too. So this is great. There's going to be more people who get to see it. So my book is actually, today is the actual publishing day, and means it's officially in bookstores. If only they were open, we could all go buy one, but we can't, and I can't go and sign any. So here we are doing it on this instead of traveling around the country, which actually might be easier and more accessible anyway. So here we are. So one of the first quotes that I put in my book was from Maya Angelou. And it says, as we know better, we do better. And I thought that was appropriate, right? Because so many women I talk to are feeling, and I've been there, believe me, there's no judgment from me, feeling stuck and unable to move on and not really understanding, why am I stuck? Why am I unable to move on? Like, this was a horrible traumatic thing you go through. The end of a relationship can be very upsetting, but people keep saying to you, you should be over it by now. Well, newsflash, you don't have to be over it, okay? We can move through it, we can move beyond it. Over it is not something that I like to talk about, and the thing is that everything that we go through is an experience, it's a learning experience, and we don't want to just cut off the past. We're going to use our past. But one of the first, so what I'd like to do today is just go through the chapters, which are essentially mostly the 7 steps that I use in my book to help people move through this transition to finding their fabulous, right? And the reason, I mean, and just a little bit about me, for those of you who don't know, I became divorced 10 years ago now, this September. 44, I had 4 kids. I was mostly a stay-at-home mother. Whatever the reasons were, I did not know what was going to happen. And I went through a lot of ups and downs, mostly downs, did some very bad things, bad decisions, which left me in a place where eventually I got up in the morning and I looked in the mirror and I honestly could not stand or understand that woman that was looking back at me. And I knew, I've been through all of these things. This life cannot go on this way. I'm not going to give you the whole book. It's in the book, right? So read the book. But it's Facebook Live. We don't want to spend all day on it. But I got to that point and I knew that the way I was feeling, something had to change. And that's what I did, and that's what happens to us. We get to that point where we're like, this is not sustainable anymore. My life can't go on this way. And what I learned, the biggest thing that I learned through any of this is that you can't always do things on your own. I was Miss Independent and still am to a certain extent. But the biggest lesson is that you have to reach out for help. Okay, that's one of the lessons I learned. But anyway, so here's some of the chapters in the book. We're going to take a brief look at the steps in the chapters. And the first one is, stop looking back. It's really hard, but when we're looking back at what happened or where we think we're supposed to be right now, right? This is where I should be. I should have this family. I should have my house. I should be, retiring in so many years. I should be doing whatever. I should have all of these friends that I go out to dinner parties with every other weekend, or however it is that you used to live. It's not where you should be. It's where maybe you would have been, but it's not where you should be. Where you are right now is where you should be. And as long as you're looking past at the past and everything that happened and saying, oh, if only I'd done this, or if only he'd done that, or if only this hadn't happened, you're never really going to be able to enjoy the life that you have right now, right? You're never going to be able to look to your future to see all the wonderful things that you can have. So one of the things, the biggest thing that I do is, stop looking back and thinking about the shoulda, woulda, coulda. and get a handle on maybe what truly happened. You know, we talk about, I'm trying to find a little passage in here, get the right chapter. Of course, I didn't mark any of the pages because that would have been way too sensible, right? So here we go. You know, I say that going into the marriage, we have this expectation. It's kind of a lot for a lot of women. I didn't really actually have this myself, but for a lot of people, you have this fairy tale. Well, I guess I did. This fairy tale of I get married and it's all going to be wonderful and we're going to live happily ever after. And when that doesn't happen, there has to be some thing. There has to be some reason. There has to be some closure, right? Newsflash, you may not get a reason. You may not get closure. You may not be able to ask that other person what happened, right? It's not going to change things. You have to accept it, let it go. Because most likely it's a combination of things. You're never going to get the word closure. So understanding that is really a first step. So the second step in the book is to really understanding your financial situation as it is right now. I mean, it really doesn't matter where you were in your marriage financially, because it's always going to change after you get married, right? You know, even if you're doing really well, splitting the money that was there into two different households is going to make a difference. Whether it's a little difference or a huge difference, there's going to be a difference. And that can be very terrifying. And I know that for myself, especially, it was really easy. That was not something I ever wanted to deal with, right? It's finances, nah, I don't want to talk about that. That's not my thing. So I'd stick my head in the sand and just keep going. But the problem is when you don't have a handle on your finances, it's always there. It doesn't go away. It's always there in the back of your mind, right? You're always thinking about it. So I have a whole chapter that deals on handling your finances and getting an idea about it. Because honestly, even if you have to make a budget and you say to yourself, wow, I didn't realize that, you know, I actually cannot go on that vacation, or I cannot afford to buy, you know, that new pair of jeans, right? That in itself is power. Because once you understand what you can and you can't do, that is control. And once you have control over it, the scary aspect goes away. All right. So getting a handle on your finances, even if you don't want to, that's a really important thing that you need to do. So that's one of the steps in the book also. The third step, and you don't have to do these in order, obviously. The third step is looking at, sorry, I fell over the other day, looking at your destructive habits, your self-destructive habits, because what we do as human beings, you know, things are not going well. So we like to comfort ourselves, and why not, right? For me personally, I like to eat a few cookies here and there, makes me feel better. Could go into a whole psychotherapy history of why that is, but it's the way I handle things. Some people drink, and it's true, you know, a couple of extra glasses of wine in the evening makes you feel better. Trouble is when you're having it starts earlier and earlier every day, or if it's every evening, you know, this starts to become a problem. Maybe it's over shopping. Maybe it's gambling. Maybe it's, what else do we, you know, thinking they're going to make yourself look better with some kind of injectables or plastic surgery, whatever it is, whatever these destructive habits that you get into that make you feel better in the short term, the next day when you get up, you start to berate yourself, right? You're like, why did I eat that? Oh my God, I'm so awful. I can't believe I did that. What happens is it starts to eat away at your self-esteem. It starts to eat away at your self-confidence. And then you feel worse about yourself. So what do? You go have another glass of wine, or you go have another cookie to make yourself feel better. And it is a downward spiral. And besides the self-esteem issues and the holding you back issues, it's also going to impact your finances depending on exactly what it is you do. You know, none of these things that we do, these habits to make us feel better ourselves. Sorry, I can't speak. None of those things are cheap. You know, none of them are for free. So I speak to a lot of women. I mean, and they say to me, I'll start talking to them on the free call that I give, and we'll be talking about how they go through their daily life. And I hear over and over again that they come home from work, or you know, when we were working, or they'll sit on the couch and they don't really know what to do with themselves. There's so many things, so many ideas swirling around in front of you, right? So many things that you want to do, that you know you should do, that you think you should do because somebody told you you should be doing them. But it's like, it's too much. It's like overload, right? It's like almost you can see them. Imagine them all swirling around and you just want to put a pin in one of them, but you can't. You just can't catch it. And what happens is we sit there and we don't make any decisions at all because of everything we've been through. Maybe we don't think we can have the good enough judgment to make that decision, or just maybe it's too overwhelming, or maybe we have too many emotions, which I'm going to get to in a minute, you know, and you can't make those decisions. So you sit and you watch Netflix, or you have a few glasses of wine, or you know, eat a packet of cookies, or whatever it is that you do, right? Keeps us stuck in the same place, keeps you unable to move on to that next fabulous step of your life. So that's one of the things we need to get rid of. So emotions, the next step is to reframe your emotions. You know, there are so many emotions that come out of a broken relationship. You don't even have to be divorced. I spoke to somebody yesterday. I mistakenly said that she was a divorced woman who was thriving. She actually never been married, but she'd been in a relationship that caused a lot of trauma, and she moved on and she thrived. You don't have to have been married and divorced to know what it's like to feel heartbreak and trauma, right? So the main emotions that I hear about when I'm speaking to people are a lot of anger. Sometimes it's guilt. Sometimes sadness, confusion. And then we like to sprinkle in there, you know, a little bit or maybe a lot of it of resentment and bitterness. And these emotions are very powerful, you know, so powerful. And they're really keeping a lid on your life. And they're mostly directed outwards, you think. Read the book, you'll see they're not always directed outwards. We think they are because it's so much easier. And again, I'm not criticizing, I'm not judging, I'm just saying this is what happens to us as human beings, to focus it on an outward reason. You know, we play the blame game, right? I've been there, I've done it. You play the blame game. If only, you know, if he wasn't sitting up there with his girlfriend, if they weren't going on vacations, if they didn't just buy a new car, my life wouldn't be like this. Well, okay, maybe. But the thing is, the only person you're hurting with these emotions is yourself. And they are extremely hard to get rid of. So we need to look at them and not beat yourself up for having them, but just work through them. Not to get over them, but to get through them, right? And reframe them and put them in another way. And the biggest way to, again, to read the book, but the most, it sounds so hokey. And every time I say this, I think people are rolling their eyes and going, oh my gosh, well, yeah, she's a coach, right? Okay, but it's the truth. The easiest way to get through these emotions is not the easiest, but the most effective tool that you have is forgiveness. Okay, and as I say, often when you forgive somebody, you are not letting them off the hook. You are not saying, well, it was okay what they did, right? If you feel they did something to you, what you're doing is you're letting yourself off the hook. You're letting that emotion go. You're saying, okay, that was a terrible thing, but I'm going to forgive it. I'm going to move on. I'm going to look at somebody else's point of view. I'm going to understand what happened in life and look back and see what happened in my life, in his life, and her life, or whatever else, right? So forgiveness, biggest tool, it's in the book. The other thing, and this is so relevant for the world that we're living in right now. This is, you know, I'm going aside for a minute, but what I've found from what is going on now and talking to so many people right now about the overwhelming feelings that we're all facing is that what's in this book for women after divorce is really how we can move through the time period that we're living in right now. You know, it's so relevant. All these things are relevant. Reframing emotions, gratitude. It might seem to you after your divorce or living right now that there isn't too much to be grateful for, but there always is something to be grateful for. Okay. It could be something really small. It could be like, it hasn't rained for 4 days. I got to go outside and walk. It could be, hey, my daughter called me and I haven't spoken to her for a week. By the way, call me. You haven't spoken to me for a week. It could be, I always like to I tell this one. I'm sure you've heard this story before if you've listened to me before. But, you know, I have an old dog and thankfully he doesn't do it anymore. But we went through a period where he was going all over the house. So a grateful, great day for me that I could write down in my gratitude thing, that I could think to myself, I'm so happy that this happened today. My dog didn't pee on the floor today, right? It doesn't have to be some grand thing like I've got, you know, $100,000 in the bank, or I just bought a new car, or I have a great job. It can be anything. So looking around, and here's the thing with that, you know, people have this outlook on life. And when we're looking around us and we see everything as doom and gloom and what's going on and what they have that we don't have, and Facebook, you're on Facebook Live right now, and that, believe me, there's a lot of that on there, right? When we look at that, it's so easy to see evidence of all that stuff. When we start to look for evidence of good things in our lives, it's kind of like you're practicing working out and working a muscle. All of a sudden, you see other good things in your life and they snowball, right? And when we have a good outlook, things tend to work out better for us. Believing in law of attraction or not, it's going to happen, right? So that's all about reframing your emotions. You forgot what I was talking about there for a while, right? Because I went off on a track. The other thing is, the next step is when, I know I did this a lot, we tend to say things to ourselves that we probably would never say out loud to another person. We are incredibly hard on ourselves for whatever reason. Like, I'll never get that job. I'm not smart enough. I'm not going to go out with that guy. I'm too fat, too wrinkly, too old, too whatever, fill in the blank, right? Whatever, or all of them, all of the above. You know, what did I do the other day? You can't see on here, but I have a black eye right now. See, it's not makeup that I slit with. I was walking, taking a lovely walk down the street on Sunday, turned my head to look at a pretty house that was for sale, tripped over a paving stone, boom, right onto the floor, right? How easy would it be to say, like, oh, you're so stupid, I can't believe I did that, right? We don't want to say those things to ourselves. We want to have compassion with ourselves. That's something that's really important. So if you look at that inner bitch that you have inside you and you're aware of the things that she's saying, and just look at it and say, really, is that true? You know, am I really stupid? Or was I looking at something and the paving stone was sticking up and I tripped over it? Hey, could have happened to anybody, right? If somebody else had done it, I'd be all like, oh my gosh, are you okay? I'm so sorry that happened to you. This is what we need to do. We need to have more compassion with ourselves. So become aware of what that voice is saying to you, and then reframe it. Good word, reframe, right? Reframe it in a different way, as if you were talking to somebody else. Okay? So we need to get rid of that voice. The sixth step in the book, one of the chapters, is reframing relationships, looking at the new dynamics in your relationships. And I'm not just talking about your romantic relationships at this point. There are relationships with friends. We lose a lot of friends when a relationship breaks up. Doesn't even have to be a marriage, right? Could be because they go off with one partner or the other. Could be because it's awkward and they don't know how to deal with it. And so, you know, people protect themselves. If they can't deal with it, they take a step back, and it's nothing personal to you. They're embarrassed, right? So we lose friends. In-laws, that's a hugely difficult position for them to be in. Sometimes they hang around for a while, but for the most part, they usually totter off after a bit, right? Not only that, but your own family. I've heard from people whose own family has been incredibly difficult for them. They can't handle it. With your children, whether you have adult children or younger children, that can become a different kind of relationship when you go through the end of a marriage. Whoever they blame, or they don't understand what's going on, or for whatever reason, your relationship there has to be leveled out and built up again. And so many women that I've spoken to as well, it's their religious communities. And sometimes it's them feeling that there's an issue, and sometimes there really is an issue. People have actually said things to them. It depends where you go. Time to find a new one if that's the case, I would say. But all of these relationships in your life, you need to look at them again and understand what's going on, and from then move on, and how to find new relationships. That's also in here, right? Finally, when all of these things start to come together, when you've stopped berating yourself, when you've stopped the destructive habits and replaced them with more positive things in your life, new hobbies or things that you want to do, when you have started to go out and make new friends, right? When you've realized what your financial realities are, and when you've stopped looking back on what you should have, would have, could have been doing right now, that's when you can start to look at your goals in life. And how do you look at your goals? You want to know what your passions are. You want to know what's really important to you. You want to look at what makes you feel in integrity, right? Not, and this is the great thing about what we're going through right now. See, positive about what we're going through right now. This is like a full screeching halt to a lot of people on the track that they thought they were on. Like your divorce, it's like a halt to the track that you thought you were on. It gives you an opportunity to actually sit back and take a breath and say to yourself, wow, maybe that's not the path I want to go down after all. Or maybe this is the path I want to go down, but I want to go further down that path. I want to do better than I was doing before, right? So figure out your passions and your goals. And then once you know that, I give this 45-minute talk that I offer for free to anybody that would like to chat with me and see how things are going in their life and what their challenges are right now. And one of the things that I ask at the end of that is, so what do you think your goals are? And so many people say to me, I don't really know. And they're embarrassed. And what I say is, don't be embarrassed. I had no idea what my goal, I had no clue. I was just trundling along in my life, and I thought everything was set out and everything was great, right? I had no idea. I had goals. I don't have any goals. My goal was like getting my kids to school every day and getting through the day, right? And, what are we going to make for dinner tonight? Because nobody sits down and asks you when you're looking after other people in the family, your parents or your kids, your husband, your job, the dog, right? When you're doing all that, nobody wants to know what your goals are. Nobody's interested in what you're doing, and you don't think about it. So this is a great time to sit down and think, what do I really want in my life? And then once you've got that, then you can figure out a way to get there. And that's really what the steps are in the book. Oh, the end, after that, we talk about what stops you getting all this, right? Because it sounds so simple. It's like, hey, we could do all this stuff. That sounds pretty simple. One of the chapters in my book is called Obstacles. Like, okay, well, if it's that easy, right, Fiona, how come we're not all doing it? Well, the answer is it's not really that easy. I mean, you have to. The biggest obstacle, to be honest, I'm giving away the end of the book, right? Telling you the end of the story before you've even read the book. It's us. We're our biggest obstacles, because we need to believe that we can do this. And we need to get out of the patterns that we've been in from basically most of us our whole lives. So really working this and working the steps. And actually, you know what? The biggest obstacle is starting. Because getting up off your behind and deciding that you're going to change things, for me, that was the hardest thing. It took me a long time to decide to do that. And I went through a lot before I decided to do that. And that's really why I wrote the book. Because, women that I talk to they come to me after 8 years of being divorced or longer, 10 years, somebody else, right? To be stuck in this place. I mean, mine was a good 5 years. I don't even know. I think it was about 5, 6 years before I got off my butt and decided to do something about this and change my life and decide that that was not where I wanted to be. So it can take years. And so that's why I wrote the book, because I don't want it to take years for you. I don't want you to go through all the ups and downs and really downs that I went through. I want everybody else to be able to come out of this and sort of get started down the right path immediately. So that's the book. So I am going to unmute and ask, if anybody has a question right now that I can answer. Oh, nope, no question. I'm going to go to the Facebook page if I can figure out how to get back to my Facebook page. I can't get back to my Facebook page. Hold on a second. Hold on. Okay. You know what? Can't figure that out. If you have a question, stick it in the comments. I will definitely get back to you and answer it, because I can't see my Facebook page right now. But what I will do is, I had a bunch of people who asked if I could send them a copy of this book. So I am going to, because I'm sure you're watching, I am going to sign some books, because this is a book signing, right? That's my book. It says Fiona's copy right there. So we don't want to do that one. This one is for Darla. So this is for Darla. And we have a copy for JJ. And we have a copy for Jennifer. And Christie's copy right here. And who else? Deborah. This is for Deborah. And this one is for Mary. Here you go, Mary. This one's for you. Okay. Now, got a big pile here. Anybody else that wants one, raise your hand, put me please or whatever in the comments. Yeah, please, I'm British, right? I'm very polite. In the comments, and I will I'll send you an email. You want to give me your address, because I can't send it without your address. Promise, I'm the only one who sees it. It's just me. I'm a lone ranger here. So I won't use it for anything else. So that's it. Oh, now the other thing is sneak peek of my new book, which is up on Amazon right now for pre-order. If you look at my Facebook page, you will see, you're welcome, Mary. You will see that it's called, what is it called? Too Scared to Love Again. And the reason I wrote this book was because with everybody that I've spoken to, the idea of loneliness and moving on to that next relationship came up so many times. And the idea that, oh my goodness, it's like a scary minefield out there. So it's called Too Scared to Love Again, the Divorced Woman's Guide to Sidestepping Red Flags, Delight in Dating, and Find the Love You Deserve. So if you'd like to know more about that, because I am looking for some advanced readers that I can send some, when I get my final edited copy back, send those out, get some feedback. That would be awesome. So if you want to be an advanced reader, I would love you to put that in the comments too. Okay, hope everything was helpful. And okay, Mary, I got you, Mary. Hope everything was wonderful, and I will hopefully see you soon. And I got to figure out how to turn this thing off. I don't know how to turn it off. Live on Facebook. We're still live. Stop live. There.